Highlights from the Rookie Cup Round 2 from the Red Bull Ring. It was Enzo Filipao on pole position once again, but inside the top 10, it was Sousa who had the best start, going from 6th up until 4th on the attack in towards the first corner. Filipao would hang on from Mesa and from Dixon as they'd start their climb up the hill, but behind there was trouble. Guides getting spun out in front of the entire rear of the pack, and everyone getting into a bit of a calamitous affair. Grunwald was on the attack, getting down the inside of Klingelmeer coming into T4, and this would actually open up the opportunity for Villa Cravey also to find his pathway up an extra position on the race start. Our race leaders, though, extremely close. Filipao under a lot of pressure coming through the final corner from Mesa. Dixon a little bit off the rear end of this, but the top three were pulling away from that pack behind. Sven Mackenberg trying to find his way past Sousa, who made a little bit of a mistake on the drive off of T4. Feeling a little bit under pressure right now, and Sven Mackenberg would be down the inside, opening the door for Grunwald as well to properly send it in and gain the position. Sousa going backwards a little bit after a fantastic start. Back to the race lead though, because our race leader of Enzo Filipao was under a lot of pressure. Mesa was there, he was nearly through, and Bo Dixon fancied his chances to grab second position as well after a little bit of a mistake from Mesa, opening the opportunity coming down into 7, but Dixon would back out of it. Schott would join the back of the battle for 5th place, but unfortunately we'd get into the rear end of Hendricks and would go for a bit of a spin, closing that battle down. Meanwhile, Sousa was back on the charge, trying to get around the outside of Grunwald, but unfortunately the outside of T3 is a sausage curb, which Sousa found the hard way, going for a bit of a spin, and Villa Cravey would be cost a position as well as Klingelmeer would also find his way through, just getting wrong-footed after that spin. The race lead, though, was again firing on all cylinders. Mesa trying to grab it. Bo Dixon just off the rear end of this one, but Enzo Filipao just on the outside coming down into T4, and Mesa would take over the race lead, but it wasn't done yet because Bo Dixon saw this as his opportunity to take over second position around the outside of Enzo Filipao going into that central double left-hander section, and Bo Dixon would take over second. Grunwald with a very aggressive pass on Sven Mackenberg would gather his way through, but the two of them would make contact going into T7. Sven Mackenberg with a bit of a slide, and it would open up the opportunity for Klingelmeer, who was on the right-hand side, to come through as well. And then Villa Cravey, the next lap, fancied his opportunity around the outside of 6 with a super move. Villa Cravey getting past Sven Mackenberg, who was going backwards and starting to struggle during this race. It wasn't just at the top of the field though where we're seeing battles. A Tassoy getting through on Gerhard, and then Gerhard getting passed by Kuznar as well. A little bit of contact between the two of them at the penultimate corner would send Gerhard back over into the side of Kuznar, who would go for a big spin in front of the pack. Villa Cravey under a lot of pressure though from Kiensberger coming down into the final corner. A big send down the inside, a brilliant move from Kiensberger, but unfortunately a little bit later on in the next lap, a big mistake because they were all struggling for grip. Villa Cravey would make his way back through, and then a poor exit from turn 1 would give Sven Mackenberg the opportunity, with a little bit of slipstream from Villa Cravey, to retake over that position. Grunwald trying to battle it out with Klingelmeer just ahead of that, and Grunwald coming out on top in that battle on that race down towards turn 4. The race lead though would close back in. Bo Dixon charging up to the rear end of Mesa, and as we head on to the final lap of the race, the battle would be turned up to 11. Bo Dixon to the outside coming up towards turn 3. Try and make that one stick. It'd have to wait until turn 4. Again, outside, doesn't make that one stick. Mesa doing everything he can to defend their position, but the door was open coming down into turn 6. Bo Dixon didn't need a second opportunity as he'd get back to the inside, he'd take over it. It wasn't done yet. The final two corners would see an opportunity for Mesa to try and get around the outside. They'd be side by side through the penultimate, almost side by side through the final, but out of that last corner, it's Bo Dixon on top for back-to-back wins in the Rookie Cup.